The first time I met Alex Cooper, we were 9 years old and he was attempting to climb the massive oak tree in my backyard. I remember watching him from my bedroom window, his dark hair falling into his eyes as he struggled to reach the first sturdy branch. "You're doing it wrong," I called out, sliding open my window. "There's a knot on the right side that makes a perfect foothold." He looked up, startled, before a slow smile spread across his face. "Show me then, if you're such an expert." That was 15 years ago. 15 years of friendship that had weathered middle school drama, high school cliques, separate colleges, and now our tentative steps into adulthood. Alex and I had always been just friends, best friends maybe, but definitely nothing more. At least, that's what I told myself every time my heart did that stupid little flutter when he called. "Sarah, are you even listening to me?" Alex's voice cut through my thoughts as we drove along the winding mountain road. "Sorry," I mumbled, refocusing on the present. "What did you say?" He sighed dramatically. I said, "Are you sure about these directions? We should have reached the cabin by now." I glanced down at my phone. GPS says another 20 minutes, unless you think Google Maps is conspiring against us. The weekend trip had been his idea, a proper goodbye before he moved across the country for his new job. Just two friends getting closure on a chapter of their lives. Simple. Except nothing felt simple as heavy snowflakes began to fall, painting the windshield white faster than the wipers could clear them. "This wasn't in the forecast," I said, leaning forward to peer at the rapidly darkening sky. "Weather around these mountains is unpredictable in early spring." Alex tightened his grip on the steering wheel. "It'll probably pass soon." It didn't pass. By the time we finally spotted the small wooden cabin nestled among the pines, visibility had dropped to mere feet, and the snow was falling with vengeful determination. "Run!" Alex shouted as we parked. We grabbed what bags we could carry and dashed toward the shelter, snow already ankle-deep and climbing. Inside, the cabin was exactly as advertised, rustic, charming, and absolutely freezing. I fumbled with the thermostat while Alex brought in the remaining bags. "Bad news," he announced, shaking snow from his hair as he closed the door behind him. "The road up here is already becoming impassable, and," he held up his phone, "no service." "The rental listing said there was a landline for emergencies," I replied, already searching for it. "I found it in the kitchen, an ancient corded phone that produced nothing but dead silence when I picked it up." "Lines must be down from the storm," Alex said, appearing behind me. He was standing close enough that I could feel the cold radiating from his clothes, smell the pine and snow clinging to his jacket. I stepped away, needing distance. "So, we're stranded." "Looks like it." His eyes met mine, unreadable. "Just you and me." The cabin creaked around us as the wind picked up outside, howling through the trees like a living thing. Something shifted in the air between us, a tension that had always been there but never acknowledged. "I'll check the supplies," I said quickly, breaking eye contact. "See what we're working with." As I busied myself taking inventory, I tried to ignore the unsettling realization that settled over me. For the first time in our 15-year friendship, Alex and I were truly alone together, with no easy escape, no distractions, and nowhere to hide from whatever truth this isolation might reveal. The cabin was better stocked than I'd hoped. Canned goods lined the pantry shelves, and a stack of firewood waited beside the stone fireplace. I found candles, matches, and a battery-powered radio in a drawer. Clearly, the owners were prepared for emergencies. "At least we won't starve," Alex called from the living room, where he was arranging logs in the fireplace. "How long do you think this storm will last?" I joined him, sinking onto the worn rug. The rental company didn't mention anything about a blizzard when I called yesterday. Just our luck. He struck a match and flames began to lick at the kindling. Trapped in a mountain cabin during the storm of the century. As if on cue, the lights flickered once, twice, and then plunged us into darkness, broken only by the orange glow of the newborn fire. "Perfect timing," I muttered, feeling around for the candles I'd just found. Alex's warm hand closed over mine in the darkness. "I've got them," Hold still. I froze, acutely aware of his fingers wrapped around my wrist, his breath close to my face. My heart hammered against my ribs as he took the matches from my palm, his touch lingering a second longer than necessary. Soon the cabin was dotted with candlelight, casting long shadows across the rough-hewn walls. The fire had grown stronger, and as we sat on the floor before it, I was struck by how the flickering light transformed Alex's familiar features into something almost ethereal. "Remember when we got caught in that thunderstorm at Cedar Lake?" he asked suddenly, eyes on the flames. I laughed despite myself. How could I forget? Your mum was furious. We were soaked to the bone, 14 years old and convinced we were going to die of pneumonia. "You gave me your jacket," I said quietly, the memory vivid now. "Even though you were shivering harder than I was." He turned to me, his expression softening. "I've always tried to take care of you, Sarah." Something knotted in my chest, an ache both familiar and foreign. "And I've always pushed you away when you did." The confession hung between us, unexpected even to me. Alex didn't respond immediately, just watched me with those intent grey eyes that had always seen too much. "Why?" he finally asked. I reached for the blanket beside me, needing something to do with my hands, because it was easier than admitting I might need you. "And now?" "Stranded in a cabin with no power and no way out. Do you need me now?" The question felt loaded with 15 years of unspoken things. I stood abruptly, wrapping the blanket around my shoulders. "I'm going to check for more blankets. It's going to get colder overnight." I retreated to the bedroom, rummaging through the cedar chest at the foot of the bed without really seeing what I was doing. My hands trembled slightly, and I couldn't understand why this situation was affecting me so strongly. It was just Alex, after all. Alex, who had seen me with braces and acne. Alex, who had talked me through my first heartbreak over chocolate milkshakes. Alex, who was leaving in a week for a new life 3,000 miles away. "Sarah?" His voice was soft behind me. "I found these in the kitchen. Thought you might want one." He held 2 steaming mugs, the rich scent of hot chocolate filling the small room. I took one gratefully, cradling it between my cold hands. "Thanks." I sat on the edge of the bed, suddenly exhausted. "Some goodbye weekend, huh?" "I don't know." He settled beside me, close enough that our shoulders touched. "Being stranded in a snowstorm with my best friend could be worse." The casual way he said best friend stung in a way I hadn't expected. I sipped my chocolate to hide my expression. "Do you remember," he began slowly, "that night after prom?" My stomach dropped. We never talked about that night, the one time our carefully maintained boundaries had blurred, when a consolation dance had turned into something more before we'd both pulled away, laughing it off as nothing. "I remember," I whispered. "I've thought about it a lot lately." His voice was so low I almost didn't catch the words. Outside, the wind howled louder, rattling the windows in their frames. The storm was intensifying, mirroring the turbulence I felt within. The cabin creaked around us, and suddenly the lights flickered back on, illuminating us both in harsh reality. Alex looked away first, setting his mug on the nightstand. "I should check the fireplace, make sure everything's safe now that the power's back." He left me sitting there, clutching my hot chocolate, wondering if I'd imagined the moment that had just passed between us, and terrified of what it meant if I hadn't. Sleep eluded me that night. The bed was comfortable enough, but my mind raced with thoughts of Alex in the next room, separated by a thin wall that couldn't block out the memory of his words. I've thought about it a lot lately. What had he meant? And why bring up that night after all this time? Around 3 a.m, I gave up trying to sleep and padded to the kitchen for water. The storm outside had settled into a steady, heavy snowfall that blanketed the world in pristine white, visible through the window in the pale moonlight that occasionally broke through the clouds. "Can't sleep either," I startled, nearly dropping my glass. Alex stood in the doorway, hair tousled from restless sleep, wearing a faded college t-shirt and sweatpants. "Too quiet up here," I lied. No city noise. He nodded, though his eyes told me he didn't believe me. Want to watch the snow for a while? We settled on the couch by the large picture window, a respectable distance between us, watching as the moonlight caught on falling snowflakes, transforming them into tiny diamonds floating down from the sky. I turned down the job, Alex said suddenly. I whipped my head toward him. What? The Seattle position? But that was your dream job. He kept his eyes on the snow. Things change. Dreams change. Since when? You've been talking about the West Coast since we were 16. Since I realized what I'd be leaving behind. He finally looked at me, his expression raw with vulnerability I'd rarely seen. Who I'd be leaving behind. My throat tightened. Alex, let me finish, he said gently. I've been trying to find the right moment to tell you this all weekend. Then we got stranded, and it felt like fate giving me one last chance. He shifted closer, taking my hand in his. His palm was warm against mine, familiar yet thrilling in a way that made my pulse quicken. That night after prom wasn't nothing to me, Sarah. It was everything. But you seemed so eager to forget it happened, and I was terrified of losing you completely. I thought that's what you wanted, I whispered. Memories flooding back, his hands on my waist as we swayed to the music, the tentative brush of his lips against mine in the dim light of his car, the way we'd both pulled back, startled by the intensity of that brief connection. I've spent 7 years wondering what might have happened if I'd been brave enough to tell you how I felt that night. His fingers tightened around mine. I don't want to spend another 7 wondering what could have been. The weight of unspoken years hung between us. All the moments I'd caught him looking at me when he thought I wouldn't notice. All the times I'd felt that inexplicable pull toward him and dismissed it as nothing more than the comfort of familiarity. Why now? I asked, needing to understand. After all this time? Because when that storm hit and I realized we were truly stranded here together, my first thought wasn't about the danger or inconvenience. His eyes held mine, unwavering. It was relief. Relief that I had more time with you before I had to say goodbye. My breath caught in my throat. And what if I don't want to say goodbye at all? Something shifted in his expression, hope breaking through caution. Sarah, what are you saying? I moved closer, closing the space between us until I could feel the warmth radiating from him. I'm saying I've been afraid too. Afraid of risking what we have. Afraid of admitting what I've always known. I took a deep breath. That you're not just my best friend. You're my person. You always have been. His hand came up to cup my cheek, his touch so gentle it made my heart ache. And you're mine. When our lips met this time, there was no pulling away, no pretending it meant nothing. 7 years of unspoken longing poured into a kiss that felt like coming home and embarking on an adventure all at once. Outside, the storm that had stranded us began to ease, the first pale light of dawn breaking through the clouds. But inside the cabin, something new had just begun. Something that had been waiting all along for the perfect storm to bring it to life. Morning found us still on the couch, wrapped in blankets, talking until our voices grew hoarse, about the past, about missed opportunities, about the future that suddenly stretched before us, full of possibility. By the time the plough cleared the road that afternoon, we emerged from our snowbound sanctuary changed. Not just friends anymore, but something stronger, truer, a connection forged in the quiet isolation of a storm that had forced us to finally face what had been there all along. As we loaded our bags into the car, the sun breaking through to sparkle on the fresh snow, Alex took my hand. Ready to go back to reality? He asked. I smiled, lacing my fingers through his. I think we're finally bringing reality with us.
Thank you for watching until the end. If you enjoyed the video, make sure to like and subscribe to the channel. There's a lot more interesting content coming soon.